So your fairy godmother comes in with her magic wand and says, bibbidi bobbidi boo, I can turn back the clock for you 10 years. What do you say?
I'd make the same decisions all over again. Wouldn't change a damn thing. Every decision, every action, every thought over the course of last 10 years have led me to become who I am today. I'm proud of it. I love every part of my life, building every day. And honestly, that's the fun part. That's something that I have loved for the last 10 years. And also something that I see that I'll enjoy for years to come. You've spent years in corporate. What is that really like?
I think it was amazing as an experience. I got to work with some really big names, from Toshiba to UBS, University of Edinburgh. And I definitely would not have had the experiences that I've had without them. It gave me a platform, it gave me a chance to learn, people to work with, and it also informed my likes and dislikes. And when you have a playground, especially within a large corporate space, it kind of enables you to figure out where you want to run to, what you want to build with. And I think that's really interesting. And you have your good opportunities, you have your bad opportunities, you have your good experiences, your bad ones. But that's part of the journey. And I think that if it were to be a situation where I'd never really been able to work with these large teams in these different countries, there's so much of my experience that I would not have had. And I just think that solving problems from an SME perspective to a large corporate perspective, it just gets your brain to think in a different way.
When do you first think that this isn't for you? When did you decide that, hey, you wanted to switch paths?
I was at a penthouse party in Dubai, as you are, and I was speaking to quite a famous artist. And he said to me, so what do you do? And I responded and said, nothing very interesting. And I think that was my moment of realization. I went home and I looked at myself in the mirror and I thought, since when am I a person that does something not very interesting? And I just got over 9 months of COVID. I had survived, I'd broken through. And so my risk appetite was insane because at the end of the day, I had life again. And that was such a big thing. And I didn't want to waste another minute being something that I didn't resonate with.
Super interesting. How did people react when you said that, hey, you were leaving?
I had a conversation with a friend on the beach in Dubai. We were sitting there doing sunset, having a bottle of champagne, because I was like, let's celebrate this. And he said, you're crazy. You are absolutely crazy. And I said, but they're forcing me to go back to London and I don't want to be there. I was in Dubai at the time. And he was like, yes, but this is a stable job and you've got a good title and you've got a good salary. And I was like, yeah, but no. And he literally thought I was nuts. A lot of people I didn't even tell. I just did it. I handed in my notice within 10 days with zero plan, like at all. I had some money in the bank and I was like, I'll just figure it out somehow. Not sure if it's the right way to do things, but I think after you've come through like a near-death experience, you tend to do things a little bit differently.
Okay, quick question, right? What did corporate teach you that you still use in your life, either from a thought process perspective or from just doing things in life in general?
So many things. So many things that it would be hard to list them all. But problem solving happens at every single level of an organization. innovation management is super important, no matter the size of the place. Business priorities change on a daily basis, sometimes an hourly basis. That was one of the first lessons that I learned when I was working in corporate. And you have to learn to get on with all different types of personalities, because at the end of the day, business happens in different avenues. So learning to adjust to that was quite big. I was also fortunate enough to do a huge amount of global work. So I have worked all around the globe, and it has given me so many different perspectives and a lens to work through. And that's probably my strongest one, is that ability to understand how business completely changes depending on the region that you're in. Now, this is a really interesting one, because I spent 17 years in corporate, but you've always been a founder. Yeah. And it's one thing that we kind of connected on, because it's really interesting because our stories are so different, yet now so similar. Was there ever a moment when you weren't a founder?
There was a very key inflection point in my life where I'd have chose not to be a builder, a founder, and I was going to leave it all. I had a Big Four offer with me. I was leaving for the US, but obviously didn't make that choice. Chose to do the grind and build the businesses. Honestly, if I look back, starting from side hustles all the way to like some projects in my early days in my career, to literally building out hardware oriented businesses to software businesses, I think that entire spectrum is just fun. I was too young. But at the same time, when I was, let's say, 21, you have that point in your life where you have to choose something that's practical, something that your parents would frame and put on the wall, right? But at the same time, you have to choose, hey, who am I? Who am I going to become? That was a very key point in my life.
The interesting part there is that you were going to go to the US. Now, for most or many Indians, that is the holy grail. It's the dream. So what did that look like when you were on that journey to go to the US?
I was getting to that point of cracking those interview rounds, getting that offer was okay. I wasn't as excited about it. I was doing it just as something that's super practical in life for me. But before that, I had a very good stint building out a company. And there was a point after which we had to sell it out. Honestly, on pennies on a dollar. That was painful. And the last chai wala bill that you pay from your pocket, that's the burn, right? Yeah. That's the day you realize, hey, I'm shutting this down. And from that point, it was me trying to discover what I'm going to do next in life. But the path was simple. Get in, move to the States. If I played my game right, I'd be on the partner track. But yeah, I mean, good investments, a safe career, fast track myself by playing the game right, and probably in a 7-8 year stint, exit out with my own portfolio to an extent. Right.
But that evening, instead of making that decision, you met with your mentor. Yeah. What happened?
So I had an old mentor. At that point when I was trying to figure out what's next in my life, he told me, hey, you need a mentor who's just a few years apart from you. Somebody who's in the grind, but is also the person who will be able to give you the right exposure to build and scale things which are in time. My previous mentor back then, he was in his 60s. He said, hey, get somebody who's, let's say, just shy of becoming 30 years old, but somebody who's been grinding it out, somebody who's been building. In that entire loop of me trying to look for a new mentor is where I was speaking to a lot of people, met Josh literally the day we I got the Big Four offer, and the day I met Josh was the same day. And it was the evening when I was really trying to decide, hey, what path am I actually going to choose? Because one was something that's the most theoretical, textbookish, practical way of doing it, something that my parents would love for me to choose. Another was to choose to hustle and build something new out here in Bombay. And
And how did meeting your mentor help you make that decision? And you made it quite quickly, didn't you?
yeah, I made it over the same evening.
Yeah.
Wasn't quick or easy in my own head. I think it felt like 10 years had passed by in that one evening.
Yeah.
But to be super honest about it, the one question that gave me the answer to the path that I chose was, who do I really want to become 10 years from now? And what is the identity that I'm choosing for myself? But also beyond that, it was, hey, which path will I choose and not have regrets? What comes native to me? What comes closer or even 1:1 with who I am as a person? So I think that's the question that calibrated my decision on this path.
And I think that's a really important one. It's like, who am I and who do I want to be?
Let me ask you this question, right? What would you see? You've seen the corporate life. Now you're founder yourself, right? You've been in the corporate career for years. You're building it out as a founder for years. What if today somebody came to you and just said that, hey, they're tempted by a safe career offer? How would you help them sort of structure their thoughts on the decision they would want to make?
So I think it comes down to a couple of things, right? One is, what kind of life do you want to live? Who are you as a person? And what kind of life do you want to live? So if you're somebody who really wants to be able to work remotely from Bali, a lot of corporate jobs won't allow you to do that.
Yeah.
And if that's the life you really want to live, then you're giving that up. If you are somebody who wants to make their own hours and go to Pilates at 11 in the morning and then work till 11 at night, then again, this is a life choice that you want to make. And you want to choose a solution that fits within that objective of the way that you want to live. Because being a founder can look so many different things at any given time, right? But on the flip side of that, I would say you have to also take into account all of the practical elements of it, okay? We have to have a roof over our heads. We have to put food on the table. You should know, right, what your absolute basic monthly expenses are. Because if you suddenly jump into the fire and there is no income, there is no safety net, there's no daddy or husband or wife or whatever taking care of you, there's no money in the bank, then you are going to panic very quickly and you're going to freak. So if there is a way to take the safe option, but you know that you still want to be someone who opens their own business, think about building it on the side until you have that financial safety net. Because the money does matter. It's what you live and breathe. Because when the money isn't coming in, you are panicking. Period. And I'm not talking the private jet money. I'm talking the basic rent money. Yeah. Just the basic way to pay your electricity bill every month. And these are the things that are really important. Now, somewhere in the middle, there is the human that you are. And if you're what we would say a type A personality, a bit of a maverick, somebody who wants to just go and do really crazy things, some corporates will give you the space to do that, and some will not. And even if you find a corporate within which you can do these initiatives that are crazy and wonderful because they have the budgets, their name opens doors, and you have all that capability, you will be one of those people that others will want to put down. And somebody will keep clipping your wings, they will keep dimming your lights, and that will eat away at your joy. It will eat away at the human you are, your potential your ability, your mind, your creativity, because when enough people keep putting barriers against you, then you kind of go a bit nuts. And this was really my reason that I needed to get out. And that is something that's not quantifiable, but I think all three elements need to be taken into consideration, because the practical elements, a lot of people are just like, yeah, I'm going to become a founder and I'm just going to get my first client in my first week and it's going to be great and I'm going to earn like $10,000 a month and it's going to be really easy. Like, no, okay, if you do, great, great, I'm so happy for you, but that is often not what the journey looks like. And so I think that it's just about, putting those two things into play and making, like, somebody said to me a while back, whenever you have a decision to make, pros and cons.
Yeah.
Use data, right? There's so many things that we do with making decisions with our gut, but actually sometimes we just need to use data points.
Yeah.
How much do I need to live and survive? How much do I need to thrive? What will make me happy? Can I go and live in a low-cost country and build from there because I have 6 months in the bank and make that stretch to a year, right? There are different practical considerations. It's just about whether you are brave enough to take them. I've had so many people give feedback. Oh, you're so lucky to live this life. No, I'm brave. It's scary, right?
100%.
It's really, really scary and it's lonely. So you have to be brave to take the decision.
Yeah.
So it's about really like, how brave are you, or how brave do you want to be when you're looking at that?
For sure. I agree with that, right? See, one of us left safety to build, right? And one of us has been building for ages, but was at that point to leave, to choose safety, but didn't. What do you make of this?
So I think there's a massive cultural difference in terms of where we come from. There's an age difference and then there's a cultural difference, right? And the cultural difference is that in India, people are encouraged to own their own businesses. It's more respected to have your own business here than it is to be an employee. Even if you are an employee at a Big Four, you're still an employee. Whereas in the UK, your path is more about going to university, getting your degree, and then getting into a big name, getting a job. And it's, at least when I was growing up, it was like a job for life. Or maybe you'd go to a couple of places, and then the world started to change and change and change. I have questioned myself so many times about whether I should go back to having a job per se. But openly, I'm so hungry, greedy even for life, right? There's so many things that I want to do and I want to build and I want to achieve, and I wouldn't be able to do that within that construct. And absolutely, sometimes it would be so beautiful to just have a salary and just have that monthly pay every month and have that safety and be able to breathe at night and not worry about paying employees, or be able to have a Sunday off, or be able to have a night off, or not have to worry about work over the evening. But I also have so many other things that go with that. I mean, what do you think?
I think I just want to put a quote out there, which is, most founders aren't afraid of failure. They're afraid of building something successfully that nobody cares about. I think I'd leave it at that. But do you remember how we first met?
We were talking about this actually. So we have now known each other, I think, just over a year and a half. And you came to one of my business lounges.
Yeah.
And I think we had a very short interaction there, but then we had a follow-up. And we talked about what we were both doing. And the reason why I remember it so clearly is because you asked me, how do we scale you? And I didn't have the answer. But you literally said to me, how do we scale this and how do we scale you? You're a one person doing the business lounge. And that was, I remember that conversation. What were your thoughts when we met?
Honestly, I think I showed up for the business lounge just out of the blue. Didn't know what to expect. But honestly, walked out knowing somebody who's got such a phenomenal energy, somebody who's not shy of hustling it out in the public, right? Because I see a lot of founders out there who want to do it, but want to save the embarrassment of doing it in public. But at the same time, I mean, that's the only way you build, collaborate, and scale, right? You are your own marketing sort of strategy at the end of the day. But so I think when we first met, my perception of you was, hey, this person has a very phenomenal, high energy attitude in general, and I'd love to sort of get to know her better. I'd really love to pick her brain, because the way you would structure your thoughts, the way you would break down complex problems, and even like general statements for the world, things might be jargon. But for your audience in the business lounge, it was nursery rhymes being told, but they were exiting with like intel that probably they couldn't get that easily, right? What's your take on me?
I think that what made us click when we met is that we both had so many things that we were doing, and so much of it was crossing over into how we were supporting founders, right? The business lounge obviously gives the leadership development side, and then the strategic networking, and then you have a venture studio that literally incubates founders and helps them grow their company. So there was that big crossover. And then there was this hunger that both of us had. But we were able to call each other out, even very, very early on. I loved the way you were able to just go, yeah, but I'm not sure this would work. And that is really important to me. I think it's really important when somebody can say, yes, this will work. No, this won't work. Are you really thinking about this properly? Have you thought about this? Because people should challenge you. And I think when you're not getting that challenge, your brain's just rotting.
100%. I think that also led to the fireside chat, right? Yeah.
So the business lounge was in just over 2 years when I chose the new format of a fireside chat. So almost like a live podcast.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it on really just breaking down things for founders, because nobody teaches you the basics. And I thought, you know what, maybe we could just talk about the basics and go through the founder journey. And that session had people hooked so intensely. I think people left at 11 p.m. and then we talked until 2 a.m. afterwards, right? People were constantly engaged, asking questions, everyone was taking notes. And I think that's probably when we realized that we had really created something super valuable that people were getting something from.
At what point in that evening did you realize, hey, this is landing differently than like we originally thought of?
I think I knew even from our prep sessions that this was going to be useful. What I think intrigued me was just how stuck to their chairs everyone in the audience was.
Yeah.
Like the pictures that were being taken of the slides, and like people asking questions back and really engaging in every point. And for people to sit there until 11 p.m., like, you know, just going, no, I've got another question for you and I want to ask about this. And then everyone kind of, you know, a large portion of people following us upstairs. And the previous business lounges had been on different formats. But I had wanted to focus and gear more towards the real business intel, right? For people to actually be able to take away knowledgeable, actionable insights of a business lens, of actual that, you know, and not in a boring way.
100%.
Like you can read watch YouTube videos and read whatever, like loads and loads of things on Google, but it just doesn't feel the same when you can come into a room and you can watch two people having a conversation about something that you're just really learning from. and you can interact with them too. I just
Yeah.
think that was really key, is
Yeah.
that people could actually ask questions. You know, most fireside chats, they just go on and on and on. And you like want to interject, you want to ask a question, and you
Yeah.
want to step in,
Yeah.
and you never can.
Yeah.
And what I loved about our format is that, you know, people were asking questions and we were able to answer them,
Yeah.
help them on the spot, which I think
Yeah.
was really valuable.
100%. I think throughout the chat, I was consistently, like, I'd say 10 minutes in, I was only thinking about one thing. Hey, how do we do more of this? And why aren't we doing more of this? Right? What's your thought process of what would you want to do after that fireside chat, and how would you want to do it?
For me, it was quite basic. I thought we should have captured this properly. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
we had a camera rolling, but I figured,
Yeah.
if this had been captured, because of the value I knew that it was bringing, I just thought if this had been captured. And then when you approached me afterwards and said, what do you think about doing something that's a bit bigger and longer than this?
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting. I have probably been asked by dozens of people to start a podcast, and I just haven't done it. So it was a really good, like, because I think it's really good to have an accountability partner.
100%.
And it's fun to build something with somebody.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like speaking from, you know, the same perspective with different lenses. And I think that just makes it more doable.
For sure. I think the end number of hours, the number of coffees that we've sort of consumed before I think we got to this shoot, that's a testament of how deeply we've thought about doing this the right way. What do you think is going to be that one thing, or like probably 2-3 things that we might disagree about on this show?
I don't think we'll necessarily disagree, but I think we'll bring in different perspectives. You know, there is over a 10-year age gap between us.
Yeah.
I come from the corporate world. You come from the sole founder world. You were born in India. I was born in the UK. I've worked across multiple different countries. And so I think it's more about us bringing different perspectives into the game. And you're so lovely and agreeable that you would never fight with me anyway. So maybe I should rile you up so you do fight with me.
I think I agree with that, but at the same time, I think both of our perceptions, our experiences, and how we've looked at world till date, right, has given us a very formidable way of appraising information that comes our way. And I mean, our day to day is literally 10,000 calls and like 10,000 other directions from which information comes our way. So I think having the accountability of doing it together, because at the end of the day, we can plan this with 10,000 other people, right?
Yeah.
But being able to do it consistently, I think that's the real fun part.
Yeah. And because we're coming from different lenses and working
Yeah.
with different founders from different parts of the world,
Yeah.
we're also getting live feedback, right, on where there is a knowledge gap.
100%.
And so bringing those two perspectives of the knowledge gap that we're seeing amongst founders and being able to just bring that in, bring it to the table, and then enable a larger audience to see it. And it could be an extra 2 people, but if that brings value
Yeah.
to the 2 people, I think that that's what this is all about.
What do you think is broken with the founder content today?
I think there's a lot of founder content out there. But I noticed 2 gaps. One was on the practical, actionable insights. And second was just breaking down really complex topics into digestible format. Everyone talks too complexly about everything, and most people are too afraid to say, I don't understand what you're talking about. I think that's really important, right? Just go to the absolute fundamentals.
Yeah.
And, you know, break down, like, what is investment, right? Where are
Yeah.
you in the phase of your journey? And just, you know, make it very accessible.
For sure. I think I'm a big consumer of business content and founder content. And I think there's from one lens, you have n number of people out there telling you, hey, you should raise. Who should we raise from? But on the other spectrum, you have those gurus telling you that, hey, you need to manifest success for your business. But in the middle is where the real gaps are, right? What do you really do? Because that exact question, the answer to that is different for every founder at different stage of their business, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, what is relevant for them to focus on and why they should focus on something or not, I think nobody talks about. I think the stage relevance is a very important aspect to this. But at the same time,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was actually, one other point I was going to raise is that too much content is by people who are multi-million or multi-billionaires, right? And you're looking to them going, oh, they've succeeded. I can follow their blueprint. But you don't know the pieces in the middle, right? The practical bits of how do you get to that? What knowledge do you need to fill those gaps to even start thinking about that stage of massive growth?
and that's the difference. That's the theatrical release that everybody watches. We want to give them the founder's cut.
Exactly.
If you're enjoying the content that we have here and enjoying these conversations and finding them useful, then please do subscribe to Founders Cut.